Hey everybody, welcome to Obscurities and Miniatures. And today I have a box in front of me that I am quite eager to dig into. And that is Wargames Atlantic's new Age of Chivalry Foot Knights kit from 1150 to 1320. Okay, that's good that we've got some years, because I know there's people out there that are real sticklers for the historical aspect, obviously, for the Age of Chivalry. I am not one of them, usually. Okay, I do enjoy a historical kit, but to me, this kind of set, and you know, it is made for the Baron's War. If you haven't had a chance to check that game out, it's got some cool stuff for that. We'll put a link down there as well. To me, the knight, the foot knight, is the ubiquitous toy soldier. It may not have been my first one as a child growing up. I'm pretty sure there was probably a Britain's Highlander or something. I feel like it was probably a Gordon Highlander figure marching, like their late 70s ones, or maybe a space one. But I absolutely can guarantee you I played with a ton of Britain's Foot Knights as a kid. I had no idea what they were supposed to represent, and I'll be honest, I didn't care. They just look cool, and those kinds of figures have always been a big interest and draw of growing up ever since, you know. And maybe it's the colors, the pageantry. I couldn't tell you what exactly the history behind it, but I have always enjoyed a good, well-sculpted knight, and I'm sure that's what this kit is going to give me. So, since we have 24 figures, it looks like we have 4 sprues with 6 bodies, I'm assuming? Yeah, because there's at least 6 pairs of legs here. Now you can see here we got some nice chain mail, and already I am quite pleased by these proportions. Now don't get me wrong, I've built my fair share of like Perry's, you know, Agincourt Foot Knights and stuff, but they were always a little bit more true scale, and these guys really have, like, they're not fat, but they've got that chunk that I expect when it comes to tabletop gaming. Interesting that most of them, not all of them though, most of them have the left hand already attached, and I am going to assume either that is, well, that looks like maybe this belt is going to be for their scabbards. Do we have scabbards included? I'm going to guess we've gone the Victrix route with these, yeah, where you have the sword in the scabbard, and if you're going to have, you know, a realistic looking figure, you can clip off the crossguard and the hilt there. The shields themselves, you can see, are plain. I know some people like the nice, you know, engraved details, but on the other hand, with the flat shield shapes like this, if you wanted to get into the wonderful world of, you know, slide decal, water slide decals, transfers, whatever, of which I'm sure if there aren't any already made, there will be some soon. You know, there's companies out there that make perfectly sized, like, little stickers that have everything done for you. You know, if you've got access to a nice printer, you can print them yourself at home and do it, but there's definitely some fun options out there to explore. And you'll see we have both bare and helmeted heads in a wide variety. That's always a plus. Looks like we have about 12 different heads on one sprue. You see, most of the hands are going to be carrying swords. We do have a couple of other weapons. Interesting that these all have a single edge to them. Picks, axes, ooh, big axe. Falchion or something, if I remember my terms. You do have one spear, which you could probably actually have turned into a banner. A couple more axes. So it looks like we've got a fair amount of stuff. The ever needed pouch, and you've got a one-hand, at least per sprue, holding the helmet, so you can have your dramatic, you know, banner bearer leading the charge. And And I am glad to see that we have enough scabbarded swords. Scabbarded? I don't know if that's a word. There's enough swords for everybody to be equipped with one, even if you're going to have them with a mace or some kind of other close combat weapon. So we have plenty of options there. Nothing too exotic in terms of weaponry, but if you're like me and you have access to a bajillion other Wargames Atlantic kits before you even start dipping into other stuff, you could probably end up equipping these guys with who knows what. And I may just do that because that's half the fun. I'll be honest. You know, I'm thinking games like Frostgrave, Dragon Rampant, Lion Rampant too, for that matter, Baron's War. There's going to be a lot of uses for these guys. So I may have to fantasy up a few, may leave some as is, but I'm definitely going to get some built, and we'll see how they turn out. I'll grab a few other figures. We'll see if I can find any of my Perry stuff as well, and hopefully you'll find out too. Sit tight. Okay, we've got an assortment of Foot Knights put together because, much like a bag of chips, I wasn't going to be able to just stop with one. Now, these guys were glued relatively recently, and yeah, I don't know what happened there, and I don't know how that broke, but I just put some glue on it, and it does not want to cooperate. So these are going to obviously get cleaned up a bit more. There's obviously some sprue scars here, but I gotta say, after building a good baker's dozen or so, nobody really looks the same, and I love it. Kind of heroically leading the charge here. Obviously, you're going to have to clip off the ends of the swords that are in the scabbards. My dog seems to be agreeing with me outside, barking in reality. Grizzled veteran with the more kind of falchion looking sword, I guess. He's got an extra one. He's just, you know, ready for action here. I love the fact that there's just a good variety of hand weapons, and before I even started to dip into any of the other various accoutrements that we've got laying around, I started putting some on bases because I can't help myself. I'm going to go get these guys started immediately. They really, really give me that classic vibe of playing with the old Britain's figures that I had as a kid, that I inherited from older family members that were just laying around. So I'm really looking forward to getting these guys painted. I don't know why. Which is it? So a bunch of really nice poses. I'm very happy. I really wish there were a little bit more in the way of larger weapons or more exotic weapons. We don't have any spears, and you can see I did a poor job of getting his hands lined up there. Oh well, once all that glue is a little less obvious. Some cudgels or hammers would have been fun. This guy was probably my favorite. I don't know, maybe it's just the helmet, the shield shape with dried glue all over it naturally. The axe, the sword, everything about it just makes me feel like I've got those old Britain's figures again. And I'm absolutely going to end up painting a bunch like that with like black coats and purple highlights and gold, you know, armory bits. And if you're curious just how big these are, because I know I was, they are absolutely going to fit in great with a variety of other figures. I'm starting to just pick and choose. So we've got some of the Wargames Atlantic plastic Aztecs here, which is an awesome kit, and I need to get around to finishing up some of the upgrade bits that I've got from the 3D printing aspect. We've got a Vitrix. Yeah, I know it's not the same time period, but if you're like me and you just want to play with fantasy figures, why not have a few Roman auxiliaries, right? So that's what that figure is with the torch. But you can see they're all on the same bases, so in terms of height, I mean, they're really right where they need to be. So that's a good sign. If you wanted to mix things in, if you want like a nice little town guard or something with a typical Reaper figure, I think they're going to fit in great. For those of you who do like WizKids type stuff, again, I don't think you're going to have any issues with proportions or things like that. I think they're going to fit in fantastic with each other. I think you're going to get into more size discrepancy issues if you're going to start goofing around with 3D printed stuff. Or if you're going to be really wild and like if you wanted to, let's say, bust out Conquest figures, then you're going to have issues. Or Kingdom Death stuff. That's where the big problems are going to be. I think if you're going to stick with more kind of classic scaled fantasy stuff, these guys are going to work great. And it just is a nice coincidence also that if you happen to have plenty of the sci-fi stuff that Wargames Atlantic has out there these days, you're going to have all sorts of fun stuff. I don't know where I put my Afghans, and I have absolutely no clue where I have deposited all of the various plastic bits from leftover kits these days. So I'm going to have to do some digging around. I didn't get to really play with chopping up things and coming up with some really weird conversions like I usually do. But my first thought, I mean, honestly, was Frostgrave. These figures are absolutely great for Frostgrave. Yes, this is an Oathmark figure. Here's some actual Frostgrave dudes. And if you give them a little bit of a boost in terms of bases, and voila, look at that. Perfect size. And, I mean, just if you've got leftover Frostgrave bits, you've got wonderful access to all sorts of fun stuff. Here's an actual Frostgrave model on a similar sized base, one of the demon kits. If you want to go with more of the easy access stuff, some Warlord conscripts from earlier releases. Wargames Factory, if I remember correctly. That sounds right, doesn't it? Yeah. But I believe they still have these kits out there, the Celts or the Gauls, and the Ashigara. I'm not sure if they have anymore, but honestly, if there's ever a kit that really needs a good plastic update, Wargames Atlantic did make, as I point to this guy for some reason, Wargames Atlantic did make some printable samurai. Maybe I'll do a thing on them one of these days, because I actually have some handy. And not that handy, because they're not, like, within grabbing handy range. But they did do some plastic 3D printed samurai as well, some sci-fi ones, which I've got handy as well. We'll have to do a separate thing on those one day. And we've got the new upcoming tiny little epic ones, which I'm probably going to have to get a hold of just for the heck of it to give them a try. I think those would be fun to play around with, like some mass combat games. But again, just fun, simple in their design. They're not overly complex, quick to build. They look nice. I'm sure they're going to look even better once they're painted. Just because I have some other ones. I've got some Fireforge figures. One of their... This is the Russian kit. And this is their fantasy... What was it? I don't remember the name of the fantasy line. But their peasant rabble. Got a few peasants. Even on the smaller bases, I think they're going to be okay if you wanted to have some of that stuff all mixed in. So, the fact that they're plastic, the fact that you have a variety of different types of bodies, none of the torsos are attached, so you can really go to town with those. You do have a few, like the two-handed torso, or the two-handed weapons, have neither arm attached. Quite a few of the torsos did have the arms attached, so if you wanted to start chopping things up or really just mix match and go wild, I think there's a lot of fun options that are going to be available to you. So kudos to Wargames Atlantic for making a new kit, and the guys behind the Baron's War, because that's what really got the ball rolling. And I absolutely am looking forward to seeing more of this stuff coming down the pipeline, even if I may not use it in the most historical of aspects. But you know what? That's okay. That's half the fun of this hobby. And I cannot wait to just have these guys be an absolute mishmash of rainbow colors where nobody matches each other. But I am also going to paint some up like with my Mordheim Warband, because why not? I mean, they'll totally fit in. So, fun stuff as always from Wargames Atlantic. And with that said then, this has been High Lord Tamberlane with Obscurities and Miniatures, saying thanks for watching, and we will see you back here soon. Even though I forgot to grab a traditional GW figure, but bye-bye.